Welcome back, fight fans. It's your boy Blue. Welcome to the third episode of BLÜ-FC. So I'll quickly go over the general outline as always, but it'll probably be slightly shorter than normal, unless we answer a bunch of questions, because there wasn't an event last week, so we don't have an event to recap. So we'll just talk about this next one, which is going to be UFC Vegas 34. But if you have any UFC related questions, be sure to throw it in the chat. I try to answer as many comments as possible. Yes, let's go. I see your chat. All right. So we're going to jump right into it. Go with the main card. So it starts off with, I'm not sure how to say the first name. It's either Alejandre or Alexandre. I can't remember. I know it was something unexpected for us up north here. It's Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Royval. We've got number 3 in the flyweight rankings, Pantoja, against number 6, Brandon Royval. So Royval lost against the new champ, Brandon Moreno. He lost that one. I believe it was it was December, because it was about 2 weeks before the title fight the first one of Moreno and Figueiredo. And just before that, of course he lost that one to Moreno, but in the first round, which again, that mainly just shows how good Moreno is, though. I wouldn't say that's too much of a knock against Royval. He did fairly okay until he got his arm snapped in half there. And then just a couple months before that fight, he fought Kai Kara France and won that in the second round. And that is something. I think that's fairly impressive. That speaks to how good he is. And I mean, he did get that fight against Moreno. And then with Pantoja, he won his last one against Manel Kape. I mean, I don't know if that's really all that crazy. I mean, I would say the Kai Kara France one is more impressive for me. And before that, Pantoja lost to Askarov, which makes sense. I mean, we haven't seen Askarov in quite a while, but I mean, he is the number 1 contender. So you got to give him that. So keeping all that considered, I'm probably leaning towards Brandon Royval on this. From what I could tell, though, Pantoja is hard to finish. So I'm thinking, especially because of flyweights don't get a whole lot of finishes. So I'm thinking this is probably going to go a decision, and I'm leaning definitely towards Brandon Royval. And if we look at the odds, which are on Bet99, you can follow the link below, or go to Area 51 Sports Network. You can follow the link there. You can set up, get $600. And the odds for that from Bet99 are, let's see, they've got Pantoja minus 180 and Brandon Royval plus 145. I don't know. That might be one you want to take. I don't know. I'm definitely leaning towards Royval because I haven't seen much from Pantoja recently. So I don't know. Yeah, that's how I'm leaning. But let me know your thoughts. Maybe you think differently. Maybe you know something I don't. I would love to hear it. But I will say that if there is definitely a chance of Pantoja getting a finish, but I'm thinking, especially since Royval just fought against Brandon Moreno, I think he probably learned something from fighting somebody that good, and he's been doing fairly well recently. So, like I said, I'm thinking Royval is going to stay away from that finish, and I think he's going to get that decision. But I would actually give you the odds for both, but it doesn't seem like Bet99 has those odds yet. No, they just have the rounds here and the who's going to win. They don't have that up yet. That's always later in the week, sadly. Anyway, moving on to the next one, we've got Vince. I think it's Vince. Could be Vink. Could be Vince. I think it's Vince. Pichel versus Austin Hubbard. Now, honestly, I don't remember seeing either one of these people fight. Oh, we still have that up. I didn't realize I could get rid of the comment there after a while. I thought it disappeared. Anyway, I don't remember seeing either one of these people fight. So I'm honestly not even sure why they're on the main card, but I don't want to knock them on that, because I will say there are a couple prelims that I'm going to talk about later that I would say really do deserve to be on the main card, but they're not, and these guys are, but that's okay. So when I looked them up, they both had kind of a lackluster results, especially recently. But I did notice that Hubbard had been fighting more recently than Pichel, and Pichel is much older, which doesn't matter all the time. But when you don't have much information of them fighting recently and you don't know what they're like, and they haven't really had crazy results recently, you kind of have to go with the stats on that. And the fact is that if you fight more and you're younger, the odds are kind of in your favor. So I'm going with Hubbard on this one, being the younger and more active fighter, and I'm giving him the decision win. And if you look at the odds, they've got actually pretty much dead even. It is -109 for Vince Pichel and -113 for Hubbard. So I guess the odds makers are just as confused as I am. I don't think any of us really know where this is headed. So the next one, we've got Parker Porter and Chase Sherman. Sherman's last fight was a decision. Wow, I'm losing it today. I might need to have some water. Was a decision loss to Andrei Arlovsky, which Arlovsky's pretty good. So, I mean, that is something. And Parker Porter last fought in a decision win against Josh Parisian, and just before that lost to Chris Dawkins. So I'm not really sure which way to lean on that just based on that. So for me, this is another toss-up, especially at heavyweight. As we've talked a lot about recently, especially with all the title stuff going around, you can get knocked out at any point. But I'm going to go this time with the one who's done better overall in their career and the one who hasn't been let go from the UFC a few years ago. I'm going to go with Parker Porter. And I could see him getting either a KO or a decision, honestly, because, again, these are the heavyweights. A KO is always on the table. And I mean, decisions are less likely in the UFC. So I would lean either way on that. I would give you the odds, but that's not really quite on the site yet. But I'm leaning either way on that. I mean, if you want to, I would bet either one of those. Either one of those seems good to me. But I would definitely lean towards Parker Porter on this, just going based on like a history-long kind of success, and recent too, I guess. And the odds for that, based on Bet99, just in the fight in general, they have Parker Porter at +154 and Sherman at -193. So they're leaning towards Sherman a bit more. But I will say, even in addition to what I had already said, I have heard a lot, like the announcers while I'm watching the UFC, because, again, I watch it all the time. I have heard them talking about Parker Porter quite a bit and how much they like him and how much they see him improving. So I like that. I like that, because the announcers, I mean, in some sports, they might not necessarily always be, paying attention to the sport too much of who's coming up and all that. But I really like the announcers in the UFC. They do know, they can see talent. So I'm thinking Parker Porter might have something here. And the next one, the co-main, is Clay Guida versus Mark Madsen. Now, honestly, I haven't seen Mark Madsen fight because he hasn't necessarily fought that recently. But you've got the veteran Clay Guida, who, I mean, I'm not always saying age is a terrible thing, but when you've got somebody this deep into their career versus an undefeated wrestler, an Olympian, I'm not saying this is going to be one-sided, but I think it kind of will be to a certain extent. Whenever there's an undefeated fighter, I always lean that way because they've never lost. So you kind of usually lean towards that. But not only that, you've got an Olympian wrestler against somebody who's known to have some troubles with takedown defense. And I'm definitely not saying that Guida is useless on the ground. But I mean, he is good. He's got some subs, but we're talking about an Olympic wrestler who's undefeated in MMA. So you have to be better than just good, which is why, you know, I'm definitely leaning towards Mark Madsen here for sure. But I will say Guida is hard to finish. But if anybody can do it, it's this guy. But can he do it in 3 rounds? I'm not quite sure. Clay Guida is pretty tough. If it was a 5-round fight, I would probably say he would get the finish. But 3 rounds, I would say there's a 50-50 shot here. I do think, though, that Madsen is going to get the win for sure. But I'm thinking probably by decision. He probably takes him down, controls him for most of the fight. Probably going to be a little slow for the viewers. But that's okay. I mean, certain viewers, the aficionados like ourselves, we love a good fight on the ground too. We don't discriminate here. So I predict a long night for Guida, a long night on the bottom, on the ground. And for the odds for that, by Bet99, we've got Clay Guida at plus 140 and Mark Madsen at minus 175. And I mean, I'm a little surprised it's actually even that close. I mean, yeah, sure. You know, he's a veteran. Clay Guida is pretty well known. He's a legend. But again, you've got an Olympic wrestler who's undefeated in MMA. I just can't see it. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's just me. Now for the main event, we've got, of course, Cannonier and Kelvin Gastelum. Excuse me. We've got number 3, which is Cannonier, and Gastelum, which is number 9. See, when I say that out loud, it might sound pretty close, and it could be depending on which Kelvin Gastelum comes out. And what I mean by that is recently he's been back and forth. Sometimes he's really amazing, and sometimes he's like, what the hell just happened? Last fight, he had Whitaker, and he went all 5 rounds to a decision. And I mean, sure, maybe it wasn't all that close, but it's hard not to get finished by Whitaker. And that's 5 full rounds. It wasn't even just 3. It was 5 full rounds he lasted. And that is something to say. And before that, he beat Heinisch by decision. All right. I mean, that's something, but still. And then before that, he loses in the second round to Hermansson. And I mean, Hermansson's good, but I mean, when you're taking Whitaker to 5 rounds, but then losing to Hermansson in 2, it's a bit strange. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It depends which Gastelum we see here. And on the other side, you've got Cannonier. His last fight was also against Whitaker, which he lost, of course, because Whitaker is unbelievable. But it was also in a decision. And again, that is something. And again, still really not all that close. But still, that is still something. And before that, he actually finished Hermansson in the second round. And again, that is something to say because, I mean, he just finished Gastelum. So, I mean, you know. So what I'm thinking, like I said, it depends which Gastelum we see. So I don't think I would bet on Gastelum just because he's that unpredictable. And honestly, Cannonier is so consistently good. And you got to love consistently, especially if you're throwing money into it. So I'm definitely going with Cannonier here. And it's not just about the previous results. I will say that I'm saying Cannonier because he also has a huge reach advantage because I think we all know Gastelum, not necessarily the tallest person, especially in not heavyweight, light heavyweight. Is it? No, in middleweight. Middleweight, that's right. And we all know that Cannonier has much more power because of, as I was getting mixed up with a little bit, he used to be at heavyweight. So, I mean, if you're getting a KO at heavyweight, you can KO anybody at middleweight. I mean, really. Yeah. So that's why I'm leaning towards Cannonier, not just because of the past results, but because of that extra reach, the extra power. You got to give it to somebody like that. And if you look at the odds, it's fairly well supported on that too. I mean, again, it's pretty close. All the odds tonight, really close. I am looking at the whole card, even the prelims, and I don't see, nothing is over 200 on either side. So they're all going to be really close ones on Saturday. So they've got minus 155 for Cannonier and plus 125 for Gastelum. And I would say that's pretty fair because, like I said, on paper, it's pretty close. But I mean, if you're looking outside of that, I'm still leaning Cannonier for sure. And that is it for the main card. But as I was saying before in the other episodes, I do like to talk about a couple prelims because the prelims, I mean, I watch every single fight. So I know the prelims, there's always going to be some really good prelims going on. For Saturday, I'm looking at two, actually. Normally, I only talk about one, but today I'm talking about two. We've got Brian Kelleher and Domingo Pilarte. Now, I'm not really sure. I don't think I've ever seen Domingo Pilarte, but I have seen Kelleher a few times. And yes, he's had some ups and downs, but whenever you watch him, you know it's going to be a crazy fight. So no matter what happens here, I'm thinking this is going to be a good one to watch. And in terms of the odds on that one, again, I haven't seen Pilarte before, I don't think, but he has a much longer reach than Kelleher, but he hasn't fought in a while. And the last one that he lost was to somebody that I don't even know. So I am giving it to Kelleher, and I'm actually saying you might see a finish here. But either way, this is going to be a good one to watch. This is definitely not one that you want to miss. And in fact, it's actually earlier in the card. It's not even one of the later prelims. I think it's somewhere in the middle from what I can tell. And for the odds, they've got Kelleher as well. They've got Kelleher at minus 184 and Pilarte at plus 150. And I think that's fair. I mean, you know, because Kelleher, again, he's been so good recently, and the people that he's fighting are better. Whereas Pilarte isn't fighting people that I've ever even really heard of. And like I said, the last person he lost to was somebody I've never even heard of. So that doesn't really look good. So yeah, I'm thinking Kelleher, I could say Brian, I guess. Kelleher is going to take this one, and you might even see a finish here. That's what I'm thinking. But again, either way, it's going to be a really good one. You don't want to miss that one. The other prelim that I have is Roosevelt Roberts. Oh, no, there's nobody in the chat. I was going to say, I'm going to check the chat just in case. The other prelim that I was going to talk about is Roosevelt Roberts and Ignacio Bajamundes. I like both of these fighters, but since I watched the Contender Series, I know how good Ignacio is. He is so good. I mean, it's more potential too. He has way more potential. And I think that's important when you're looking at somebody that young. You don't necessarily want to focus too much on what happened, maybe even the last fight. You want to see, you know, that they're going to get a lot of progression in. And I know I can definitely see that from Bajamundes. So yeah, we'll look at my notes here. Like I said, I saw Bajamundes on the Contender Series, and honestly, I think he was one of the best ones on the whole series that I saw. So, and his last fight, even though he lost, it was still really good to watch. And Roosevelt can bring it too, as we know if you've seen any of his fights, which is why I'm saying this is one to watch. You know it's going to be good. And yeah, as I was saying, I think Bajamundes has a lot more potential. He's younger, and with that crazy reach, he has a ridiculous reach for the weight class. I mean, he's going to be trouble later on for sure. Can he pull it together this time? I'm not 100% sure. You can never be 100% sure, especially in the fight game. But I think as he pulls it together within the next 3-4 years, he's going to be so good. He's going to be crazy good. So this time, though, I will say I'm kind of leaning towards Bajamundes, even though he lost the last one. I'm still giving it to Bajamundes. Maybe a finish, but it's probably more likely a decision. Again, no matter which way it goes, this is another one that you do not want to miss. You want to see this one. You definitely want to see this one. And if we look at the odds, this is actually, I believe, from what I can tell, it's actually the second fight. So it's really, really early in the night. It's probably going to be on at like 4 p.m. Pacific, I would say. So it's early on. But again, you don't want to miss any fights at all. I'm going to be there watching, that's for sure. For the odds, they've got Roberts at -150 and Bajamundes at +122. So again, like I said before, all the fights tonight are close. They really all could go either way. But yeah, so I'm leaning towards Bajamundes on this. You might want to throw a couple dollars down on that, +122, maybe. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Bajamundes on that one. So yeah, this card is definitely a bit of a sleeper card, but next week, oh boy, next week is going to be a good one. It's the first main event that I've seen in a while, at least the past few months, or not few months, the past few weeks in the Apex that I'm really excited about. Barboza and Chikadze. I love Barboza. He is a killer. He is so good. And Chikadze, also amazing. I'm a huge fan of his too. That is going to be absolutely insane. I was hoping there'd be some comments because now we're that's basically the end of the card. So if anybody's still watching and has some comments, wants to start a conversation real quick, I would love that. If not, I'll kind of just go into what I'm thinking in terms of maybe the fights, where they could go after this, basically. I'll talk about this next week too. But I'm thinking the winner of the main event Saturday, so either Cannonier or Gastelum, they're going to be right at the top. And the very top is busy. They've got, Whitaker, come on. Whitaker obviously is getting the next title shot. I think we all know that he definitely deserves that. So he's getting that. You've got Costa and Vittori fighting soon. Well, I'm not sure if it's that soon, but they're fighting. And then most of the other people are busy. So what I'm thinking is the winner of this fight, Cannonier or Gastelum, should get Sean Strickland because he just won 2 weeks ago. So that seems like the obvious choice. Strickland's going up. So, he beat Uriah Hall, so he deserves to be at the top in the conversation. Obviously, he's not going to get a title shot right away. So why not give the winner of Cannonier Gastelum the fight against Sean Strickland? The winner of that should then go after Whitaker to hopefully get the title shot after that. I think that's where it should be going in that one. And I'm thinking the same thing for the flyweights, actually. Well, not the exact same thing, but I'm thinking for Pantoja and Royval, I'm thinking that's a similar kind of scenario. You've got, again, two people right at the top. Royval even just lost to Moreno. Pantoja, he's still up. He's the number 3 right now too. So I'm thinking the winner of that one, they don't get Moreno. I don't know. Actually, I don't know about Moreno. I don't know who fights Moreno, but actually, yeah, they could even. Anybody in the top 3, honestly. I would say the winner of that either gets Figueiredo, Moreno, or Askarov. I have no clue where Askarov is. I haven't seen him in a while. Literally haven't heard anything about him, honestly. So I'm thinking that one of those two guys, the winner of that fight, gets either Davison or Moreno. I think that's a pretty easy argument to make. And if you got Royval with the win, which I do, that's a pretty cool rematch. He just lost in December. You could give him the rematch for the belt. That would be kind of cool. Pantoja, he's up there. Give him the chance at a belt. That would be cool too. And like I said, then if you bring Askarov in, I don't know what's going on with him, but if he's still there, throw Askarov in for that fight. Get him back in there. Because honestly, you know, I don't know if I'd give somebody a title shot considering he's been off for so long. I think you throw Askarov in that conversation too. But yeah, so that is it for the bets this week. I'll check the chat. There's nothing in the chat. Yeah, so I think I'll just call it early because there's, again, nothing to recap. We'll obviously have a much longer show next week. If you want to check out anything else that I have going on, I tweet a lot about MMA. My Twitter is BLBeard2. My Instagram is BLUBEARD427. If you want to watch these streams, you can go to my YouTube and my Twitch. They're all linked below wherever you're watching. And if you want to hear about any of the other sports, you can head over to the Area 51 network, which has coverage of all the other sports. Check out the other channels in the group as well. See ya next week. I cannot wait to see that one. Giga Chikadze and Edson Barboza. See ya.